Hi, this is Pattu from FreeFinCal, and in this video, let's discuss if people who hold active mutual funds should now switch to index funds. Now, I have been covering quite a bit about index investing in India and the performance of active mutual funds against both the standard equity benchmarks as well as the strategic equity benchmarks, and I've shown that only about half the funds in most equity fund categories are able to beat the benchmark, and this means that the age of indexing is well and truly here. So many readers and viewers have asked me if they should now start shifting their active mutual funds, actively managed mutual funds, to passive funds or the index funds. So let's take this step by step. So the first question I think any person should ask is, are you really capable of being an index investor? Now, index investing means that you do not care about peer performance, you do not look at star ratings, you do not seek to beat the market. Obviously, you cannot beat the market with an index fund, and you will not worry if after a few months after investing, or even a few years after investing, you see that many active funds have bet your index fund. So if you're a person who's going to worry about that and you're going to go back to active funds and so on and further clutter up your portfolio, do not become an index investor. Become an index investor only when you actually believe that index investing is a low maintenance, low cost method to get the job done for you, for your goals, right? That is, it will give you enough money for your future needs. So only when you believe that, become an index investor, otherwise don't. So I think before you become an index investor or become consider shifting your active funds to index investing, you should get the first steps right. What is your goal? What is your target corpus? When do you need the money? What kind of asset allocation, that is how much in equity, how much in fixed income, do you need for this goal? And how should you change the asset allocation, that is decrease the equity exposure as you keep investing and as your deadline approaches? How do you do all that? To do all this, you can download a free tool from FreeFinCal. This is called the Robo Advisory template. This is found on the main menu of the freefincal.com website. There are two versions. There is a free version, which this is fully functional. All the features are available to you, and it is available as an exe file for Windows. And there is a paid version where you can change the internal settings as per your own desire. That's available as an Excel file for Windows and also for Mac Excel. So I suggest you try the free version because it's fully functional. It will give you all the features. You can create your own financial plan from start to finish using that. And I also have a list of hand-picked mutual funds called Plumline. So that goes hand in hand with the Robo Advisory template. So do that first. The next step would be to look at your current portfolio and ask yourself, are you holding too many funds? If you're holding too many funds, then look at the video I just published a couple of days ago. Look at the post I wrote about this, and reduce the number of funds, reduce the number of active funds. Don't think about index funds now. First of all, make a list of your funds and tell yourself, I don't need this fund, I don't need that fund. But how do you do that? So in order to do that, you need to first of all decide on the build of your equity portfolio. In my equity portfolio, I am going to have 50% of large caps and rest in mid caps. Or in my equity portfolio, I'm going to have 50% of a aggressive hybrid or a balanced fund, and the rest as a I can have mid caps, or I can just use an index fund like that. So you have to build on. You have to decide on the build of your portfolio. I have given several examples in a post just titled that, or a video just titled that. You can see that image in the video. So first of all, decide on what is going to be the composition of your equity portfolio. And once you finalize that, look at your funds, look at the funds that you're actually holding now, and say that these funds are not necessary and these funds are going to be there in the portfolio, and you can gradually get rid of the funds that you feel are not necessary and shift the holdings to the funds that you want in the portfolio. What about index funds? Now, if you have a small portfolio and you have just started investing, small portfolio means just a couple of lakhs or so, even less than that, then I would suggest that you have a portfolio like this. Have 50. This is only the equity part of the portfolio. The fixed income part is separate. Let's not confuse that. These are just suggestions for the equity part of the portfolio. So have 50% aggressive hybrid or a balanced fund, 50% Nifty Next 50, which yesterday I discussed is like a proper mid-cap index fund. 50% of balanced advantage fund or dynamic asset allocation fund, and 50% of Nifty Next 50. Or you can have what is known as a multi-asset fund, 50% of that. Multi-asset means it will hold at least 10% of 3 asset classes: bonds, stocks, and gold. Choose an equity-oriented multi-asset fund. ICICI Dynamic or ICICI Multi-Asset Fund is an example. And then you can have rest 50% Nifty Next 50. So this will give you the balance between the the low volatility. The hybrid funds will give you that, and the risk and reward from the Nifty Next 50. If you have a large portfolio, then I would suggest, first of all, you decide on the build of your equity portfolio. As I just said, build your equity portfolio around an aggressive hybrid or a balanced advantage or a multi-asset fund, equity-oriented multi-asset fund. Keep that as the core holding. Let that be 60-70% of your equity portfolio. The rest, if you are interested, if you think you need exposure to Nifty Next 50 index fund, then you can have 20-25% to Nifty Next 50. If you don't want it, if you just want those hybrid funds as the core portfolio, that core equity portfolio, that's fine. There's no need for any other fund. Just one or two. If you have a large portfolio, you can have 2 hybrid funds. That's good enough. And you can have little bit exposure to Nifty Next 50 if you are interested. Otherwise, no. So that's it. So keep it simple. But why am I saying aggressive hybrid, balanced advantage, and multi-asset funds? The reason is that these hybrid funds give you guaranteed downside protection. Now, an aggressive hybrid fund means that it will hold direct equity of minimum 65% at all times. The rest can be in bonds. Balanced advantage means it will hold equity of 65%, but direct stocks may fluctuate anywhere between 80 to 20-30% depending on market conditions. So it will dynamically change its asset allocation, but it will have arbitrage or derivatives so that the fund itself is always an equity fund from the point of view of taxation. Multi-asset means it will hold minimum 10% of gold, 10% of bonds, and 10% of equity, but it can have but the rest it can dynamically, according to market conditions, change its asset allocation. So in terms of risk, aggressive hybrid is the highest in terms of volatility. Among these, balanced advantage is the next, and multi-asset is probably equal to balanced advantage or could be a little bit lower depending on the actual fund you are looking at. So you are guaranteed of downside protection. What is downside protection? So let's say in a month that the index has fallen by 10%. These funds are likely to fall less than 10%. So that is called downside protection, right? So you are guaranteed of it by you choosing these funds. You are not guaranteed of this by choosing an active fund, active multi-cap, active large and mid-cap, active mid-cap, small cap, and so on. So but if you choose it, you are guaranteed of downside protection, which is not available for you in an index fund. In an index fund, there is no question of a downside protection. And when you choose these funds, there is no pressure for you to beat the benchmarks. Because these benchmarks are different, and they have different benchmarks like CRISIL balanced, NSE hybrid, or CRISIL hybrid kind of funds, kind of benchmarks. And there's no pressure for these funds to beat the equity benchmark, so you will not be comparing and you will not be worrying about performance. And also the fund manager will limit the volatility by regularly rebalancing between equity and bonds, or equity, bonds, and gold. And that regular rebalancing will allow even better volatility management. So that is the reason why I think that having these funds as the core portfolio holding, whether you are a young investor or an old investor, it gives you the best balance of risk and reward. So if you're a young investor, I would suggest you have, like I said, about 40-50% of Nifty Next 50. If you're an older investor, you can decide whether to have it or not. You can have a little bit exposure to index funds. That's also fine. So how should I now choose active funds is now a question that many have asked, and the answer is what I've just said. Choose aggressive hybrid, balanced advantage, multi-asset funds as the active funds of choice. Build your portfolio around them. Keep these funds as the core portfolio and build it around them. Why no mid caps and why no small caps? You don't need them at all. Yesterday I shown Nifty Next 50 is all the mid cap fund you need, and the small caps do not do well over the long term, because whatever they gain, they lose quickly, and so it's overall The outperformance is very, very, very small. So Nifty Next 50 is a fantastic mid-cap fund, and that's all you need. If you are worried about mid-cap, small-cap exposure, the hybrid fund that you choose a fund that can invest across market cap. For example, I think Mirae Hybrid can invest across market cap. There can be other funds also that invest across market cap. Then your portfolio will not be devoid of mid-cap and small-cap funds. So you don't have to worry about that. So I suggest that you stop worrying about the active and passive, active versus passive debate. Relax, identify your goals, have an asset allocation, plan for each goal, decide on the build of your equity portfolio, on the composition of your equity portfolio, trim down your portfolio and bring down the funds that you have, and build your equity portfolio around suitable hybrid funds, either aggressive hybrid, balance advantage, or multi-asset. And then if you are interested, if you are a young investor, use the index fund as an equal partner, that is 50-50, 50% hybrid and 50% index fund. If you are a slightly older investor, you can have a little bit exposure, that's what I mean by apprentice, or you don't need any exposure to index funds at all if you are middle-aged and your goals are nearer. So that's it. So don't get worried about this active versus passive debate. Focus on the end game. What we are investing for our future needs. We are investing not for getting high returns. We want enough money for future needs. Keep that as the end game. Keep your portfolio minimalistic with a clear purpose. You must be able to tell yourself, this is the build of my equity portfolio. I have chosen this fund because I want that exposure, this fund because this fund is different from that fund in such and such a way, and so on. You must be able to justify your portfolio to yourself, not to anybody else. If you can do that, then I think success is yours. So I'll catch you again in another video. Have a look at the community tab and in the channel YouTube channel page, and let me know what your real problems are, and I'll build my videos around them. So I'll catch you again in another video. Bye bye.